Hello everyone. So we now come to the main point of the induction motor, which is the working principle of the induction motor. So far we have been discussing about the stator, how the stator is constructed and how the stator windings are done. And now we'll talk about the rotor and how stator and rotor together form the induction motor. So far, just to summarize what is there on the stator, three-phase winding connected to three-phase supply. So that's all. You have a stator with three-phase winding, it is stationary, connected to three-phase supply. So as a result, you get a rotating magnetic field. Now the rotating magnetic field can be of 2 poles, or 4 poles, or 6 poles, or it all depends on the kind of winding that you have made. For our explanation, let us assume that it is a 2-pole machine. Okay, so what is the speed of the rotating magnetic field? The speed of the rotating magnetic field is 120 F by P. So this is the synchronous speed of the rotating magnetic field. So let me show that in the form of a picture. You have a stator. Now inside that there is a stator winding. I'm just showing like this. So let's assume this is a stator winding. So notice that there will be 3 different windings for 3 phases. So this is like I'm just drawing a schematic of winding. So this is a 3-phase supply. So input is electrical and it is 3-phase supply. So let's say a frequency is 50 Hertz or 60 Hertz or any frequency. This is fixed to the base. So this is all fixed to the table. Now inside there is air gap. So what do we do in this air gap? So this air gap is filled by what is known as the squirrel cage. Okay. So rotor, there are basically 2 types of rotors. One is a wound rotor and other is a squirrel cage rotor. Because it looks like a cage inside, we can keep some squirrels, so it's called squirrel cage. So let me show you some pictures of the squirrel cage rotor. So I just did a quick internet search. Okay, so yeah, so here you can see. So you can see horizontal bars which are called as conductor bar, and at the end it is all short circuited as a using a short circuiting ring. So it is like this. This is one example. So this is a similar rotor. Again you can see the bars and they are all short circuited on both sides, and this middle thing is the shaft. So this is another example, rotor bars, and then this is the end rings on both sides. So this is a simple construction. There is no windings. Of course there are wind rotor induction machines which we will discuss later. So this is another schematic. Very similar diagrams we are finding on the internet. So this is copper conductors which are short circuited at either end. In between you can see the shaft. So this is the general structure of a squirrel cage rotor. This is the actual picture. So the bars you can see, and which are short circuited on either ends. So how it works? So let me go back to my drawing. So basically squirrel cages, you have a conductor, another conductor, another conductor, and so on. The conductors are arranged in the form of circle, and then they are short circuited at both ends. Okay. So let me draw that here now. So now you know that there will be a magnetic field. So I am just drawing an imaginary north pole and imaginary south pole. So the imaginary north pole is rotating at the speed of ns, synchronous speed, and at the that means the air gap flux right now it will traveling downwards. So air gap flux is downwards, and inside that we have the rotor. But then the air gap flux is not stationary, the flux is moving. So after some time the flux will be horizontal, after some time the flux will be reversed, and so on. So for the time being, let's at this instant, let's see that the north pole and south pole are in this configuration, and then they are moving. Okay, what is a rotor? Oh, sorry for the disturbance. What is a rotor? So the rotor consists of conductors like this, and all these conductors are short circuited on both sides. Okay, so now these are all mounted on a shaft, and let's say I'm just bringing the shaft out like this. So this is output is mechanical because this is a motor. Now this is a shaft which is coming out of the center of the machine. Now at this time the shaft is not rotating, it is standstill. Okay, so let's write it here. Step 1, rotor is at standstill. So when rotor is at standstill, I would say NR equal to 0. So where NR is the notation for the speed of the rotor, 0 revolutions per minute. Next, what happens? You notice that there is a conductor is placed which is being cut by the magnetic field. So definitely some EMF should be induced in these conductors. So now I am interested in finding out what is the EMF induced in the rotor conductors. Now to find the EMF induced in rotor conductors, it is a generation principle because we are saying EMF generated or induced. Now generator principle, how do you find the direction of EMF? We use the Fleming's right hand rule. So on this channel there is a special video for Fleming's left hand rule and right hand rule, you can refer to that. Now I am using the Fleming's right hand rule to determine the direction of the EMF induced in this rotor bar. So consider this. Okay. So what is Fleming's right hand rule? So if I have right hand, then this is FBI, force, B is for flux, I is for current, FBI. That way you will remember. So what is the force? Now, or this is the motion actually. So you see the flux is going towards right side, whereas the conductor is stationary. In other words, relatively speaking, if I consider the flux as stationary, then the conductor is moving towards left side. So that is from right towards left. So this is the motion of the conductor. I have to use the right hand. So I align this thumb to this side because the conductors are relatively moving in this direction. Next is the field. Field is moving downwards. Okay. So I keep my thumb like this. Thumb is left to right and the field is downwards because north pole is above and south pole is below at this instant. In that case, the third finger which you can see here, it's vertically up towards the screen. That means I can put a dot here to represent the direction of the induced EMF. That means the EMF induced in this would be in such a way that it sends the current upwards out of the paper. Now since on the south pole you will find that the EMF induced will send the current in the opposite direction. Now the question is, EMF is induced, will the current flow? And the answer is yes, the current will flow because remember the squirrel cage, the rotors are short circuited on both sides. Any EMF induced on this will have a path for the current to circulate. So the current can circulate through the either end short circuited. So the current will start flowing. Okay, so that is the second step. So what is the second step? Rotor is at standstill. The EMF is induced in rotor, that is rotor conductors. Third step is current flows in rotor conductors. Now the fourth step, what is this current doing? So you notice again there is a current carrying conductor placed on inside a magnetic field. So current carrying conductor placed inside a magnetic field will experience a torque. So now I want to know what is the torque direction. So now this is a motor principle because I am saying the current carrying conductor is placed in a magnetic field experiencing a force is nothing but a motor. So in which direction is the motor torque generated? So since it's a motor, we have to use Fleming's left hand rule. So get your Fleming's like for applying left hand rule. So again, this is force, this is flux, and this is current. Okay, so force is unknown, flux and current you know. So what is the direction of the flux? It is downwards. And what is the direction of the current? It is towards the screen, that is towards the, away from the book towards the camera. So this is the direction of the current, this is the direction of the field. Therefore, this is the direction of the force experienced by the rotor conductors. Okay, so all these conductors experience the force in this direction. Now the torque is generated because on the other end the force will be in the opposite direction. So a twisting force is generated, so a torque is generated, and as a result the rotor starts rotating. Okay, so the rotor, which was at standstill, now rotor starts rotating. So NR is now greater than 0. Okay, but the rotor keeps on rotating, but then what will be the final speed of the rotor? Okay. Now imagine a condition where I'll write it here, condition where NR equal to NS. That means the stator magnetic field is rotating at synchronous speed and the rotor bars are also rotating at exactly the same synchronous speed. Under that condition, the rotor bars are no longer cutting the magnetic field of the stator, therefore no EMF is induced and no current is flowing. When no current flows, the torque will become 0, and when the torque becomes 0, then it cannot maintain the same speed as NR equal to NS. Okay, so let me write that. When NR equal to NS, relative motion equal to 0, flux cut equal to 0, okay, EMF induced equal to 0, and current in rotor is also equal to 0. Finally, as a resultant, torque equal to 0, and when torque is 0, then NR will start reducing. So the moment NR starts reducing less than NS, again there will be some relative motion between the rotor bars and the stator magnetic field, and some EMF is induced. Finally, the rotor will settle at a speed which is NR, which is less than NS. Okay, so when NR equal to NS, torque equal to 0. Okay, so therefore rotor settles at NR less than NS. Okay, so this is the reasoning, this is the logic why the motor is rotating. Now I said input is electrical and the output is mechanical. So what happens if I connect a mechanical load at the output? So any increase in the mechanical load at the output, so we'll have a load torque TL, and then TE is trying to, I think this is the direction of TE, and the direction of TL will be opposing TE. The load torque will try to slow down the rotor, and the moment the rotor slows down, more EMF is induced in the rotor, more current starts flowing, and more torque is generated. Thereby, it will balance out the higher torque requirement of the load. As a consequence, now the rotor is settled at a slightly lower speed than the earlier speed. Okay. So finally, what I would say is NR will reduce if load is increased. So this is the complete working principle of the induction motor. Now at this stage I would like to introduce a very important conceptual term, that is called slip. Okay. So what is slip? You notice that I draw the diagram again. So this is north pole in the stator moving at the rate of synchronous speed ns. This is the south pole moving at the rate of synchronous speed ss. By the way, there is no north pole, there is no south pole. These are just imaginary poles. There is a stationary three-phase winding carrying three-phase currents, which result in a equivalent imaginary north pole, south pole rotating at the synchronous speed. Now you have the rotor. Rotor is rotating at the speed of NR. And I just explained that NR is less than NS. So for example, if the synchronous speed is 1500 revolutions per minute, maybe the NR is only 1400 revolutions per minute. This is just an example. Okay. So what is the slip? Okay. So slip is nothing but the percentage reduction in the speed of NR. How do you find the percentage reduction? So this is NS minus NR divided by NS multiplied by 100%. This will give the percentage reduction in the speed, and the slip is denoted by S. Okay, so S equal to NS minus NR by NS into 100%. If I don't multiply with this 100, I'll have a fraction, so that fraction also can be representative of a slip. So for example, in this case, NR is 1400 and NS is 1500. What is the slip? So slip will be 1500 minus 1400 divided by 1500, which is nothing but 100 divided by 1500 into 100. Okay. So this is like 100 by 50 in terms of percentage. So let me quickly calculate how much is 100 by 15 so that we can know what is the slip. So 100 divided by 15, so it is 6.66 or 6.67 percentage of slip. So for the example which I have taken. Another quick thing I want to mention is the frequency of rotor currents. Okay, so when it stands still, rotor NR equal to 0, NS is at the synchronous speed. The EMF induced in the rotor will have the full frequency of the supply frequency. Okay, so when NR equal to 0, FR, frequency of the rotor, is nothing but Fs, frequency of the stator. But as NR is catching up with NS, the relative speed is what will determine the frequency of the rotor EMF and the rotor current. So that we can use this slip to denote that. Simply I can write Fr equal to S into Fs. Okay. So the rotor frequency will have that fraction of the stator frequency as represented by the slip S. Okay. Take a trivial case, NR equal to 0. What is the slip? Slip is NS minus NR by NS as a fraction. So that is nothing but NS by NS, that is nothing but 1, or it is 100%. So when the rotor is at standstill, 100% is the slip. Whereas under normal operations, the slip will be like 2 to 3%. Okay. So I think with this introduction of concept of slip and the working principle of induction motor, I'll end this video. We will try to solve some example problems on this to make your understanding better. Just to quickly review, what I try to explain in this video is the working principle of induction motor. On the stator side, we have three-phase winding connected to three-phase supply, creating a rotating magnetic field whose speed is given by 120 F by P, and the rotor is drawn here. Stator is drawn here, sorry. And what is happening in the rotor? Rotor, we have wound rotor type and squirrel cage type. We are discussing only squirrel cage as of now. When the rotor is at standstill, EMF is induced in the rotor, and then current starts flowing, and when the current starts flowing, current carrying conductor placed in a magnetic field experiences a torque, and that torque will start the rotation of the rotor. And as the rotor is rotating, it cannot catch up the complete stator, because consider condition NR equal to NS, the relative motion is 0, flux is 0, that is flux cut is 0, EMF induced is 0, and therefore torque is 0. Therefore the NR starts slowing down, and when the rotor starts to slow down, it will not go all the way to 0, it will settle at some speed which is denoted by NR. And as I mentioned, slip is the mechanical quantity which describes what is the percentage by which the rotor is slipping. In fact, why it is called slip is there is some kind of slipping action going on between the rotor and the stator flux. Okay, so let's quickly revise this in one more time. It just got my mind to ask this question. So the first question is, what is the speed of the magnetic field with reference to stator? So speed of flux with reference to stator. So, and the answer is ns. Second one, what is the speed of flux with respect to rotor? Now imagine that your rotor and then looking at the speed. Now the answer to is this is, when nr equal to 0, then answer is ns. When nr equal to nr greater than 0 and nr less than slip, nr less than synchronous speed, then the speed of flux with respect to rotor is nothing but the slip speed. Okay, so that is nothing but s into ns. So this is the like 2% or 3% of ns is the speed. Okay. So I think with this I'd like to conclude this video. So let's see more videos, and by solving more problems on this you will get more proper understanding.